And good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I turned my headphones down yesterday, but I think that was because our levels were not correct. So now my headphones are good. I think. Hi, Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. Griffin's back from Parts Unknown. To my knowledge, it still has. Did you nobody stole your liver or anything while you were gone, right?
Yeah, I believe I have all my organs.
All right.
Thankfully.
I wish I didn't have all of mine. Hi. Somebody came by and was like, "I stole your kidney," and I was like, "Ha ha!
Joke's on you."
Joke's on you. That kidney sucks." You stupid. I'm good now. Life is better. We got a lot to do on a Tuesday edition of the program coming up in a bit. Tracy Wolfson from CBS, who, of course, was in Baltimore on Sunday. Get her thoughts on what she saw from the Ravens. A little bit later on this morning, all of our regular Tuesday features. Tuesday's the day we get caught up on everything we didn't talk about on Monday. We will preview the start of Maryland basketball season. Gets underway tonight against Mount St. Mary's. Our buddy Patrick Stevens will be back with us every Tuesday throughout the year. Of course, on Tuesdays, we get into what's happening in the world of high school sports as well with our friend Wes Brown. County Sports Zone Radio will join us. And this morning, of course, it's Tuesday, so we'll preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. How hard are we going in the paint for Keaton Mitchell, if he's available, which in most Baltimore-based leagues probably he is not.
I've had him in the PressBox league for, I think, majority of the year.
Yeah,
and I dropped him, I don't know, like a week or two ago I dropped him.
Yeah. So. Well, somebody already got him.
Really?
Oh, yeah, he's not available.
It was probably,
not available.
Ken or something.
Yeah, Ken does love Keaton Mitchell, so that wouldn't surprise me if that were the case. So how hard are we going in the paint for Keaton Mitchell? By the way, I have a real problem in one of my leagues where I'm 5-4, and this is the league where we have no IR spot. And wouldn't you know, in that league, all of my team is on bye this week. Everybody. Everybody is either on bye or all right, so hang on a second. I have
you should have known this when you were drafting.
I have Tua, Darrell Henderson, Isaiah Pacheco, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Waddle on bye. And these are not good options for me to drop somebody. I got a real problem there. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. And Justin Jefferson, who's still on IR. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue what I'm doing.
Chalk it up and
no idea.
Probably start Josh Dobbs and.
No, I've got C.J. Stroud. I'm good there.
Well, then.
I have to in order to have a flex and a tight end this week.
Drop Tua.
No, I'm gonna have to drop. Well, I have to drop Henderson. That's fine. He hasn't done a damn thing. So I'll drop him in order to get one of them. I have no idea who I'm dropping. I guess I might just have to play without a kicker this week, but I'm only 5-4. I don't really have room to be losing more games, but I think that's going to be my only option is going to be to play without a kicker. Life is good. Life is good. We'll talk about it with Joe Serpico later on in the program. Tonight, Tyus Bowser Show returns to Guilford Hall Brewery, kind of our home away from home, if you will. Looking forward to being back. Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North with Tyus Bowser and his special guest, Justin Matabike. Hope that you will come join us tonight. One of the more rising stars in the entire league will be out with us and Tyus. Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's Memorabilia. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, and AJ Michaels. Find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. But tonight, Tyus Bowser Show with Justin Matabike, 7 o'clock, Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. We will see you there. Don't know what to make of John Harbaugh cryptically saying that there'll be an announcement coming with, David Ojabo soon. I guess that's pretty much one thing or the other. There's not a whole lot of gray area there. Basically means either we will know momentarily that David Ojabo is coming back right now or not coming back at all this season. There's really if there's an announcement, you wouldn't be announcing, we'll see where he is in 3 weeks. You're announcing one thing or the other. Hopefully, it's the former. Hopefully, that's the case. That they're activating him to start practicing, and we'll see where it goes from there. That would be great if that would be the case. We'll just have to continue to wait and find out this week. The only other option is they're announcing that it's just not going to happen this year, and that would be obviously a huge bummer, and like a bummer on different levels, right? Because I think that it covers the difference between where we wanted to see this edge rush unit move in order to be not only to feel comfortable about this season, because you could say, hey, I do feel pretty comfortable about their pass rushing for this season. But you have to measure that against how comfortable you may or may not be about it long term. And that answer you were uniquely hoping to get from Owe and Ajabo. Like, the hopes separate the two things. Right now you say, hey, look, man, the pass rush has been pretty good. But as far as figuring out if it's something that can be an answer moving forward or if it's still going to be the biggest hole in the roster that the Ravens will have to address in the offseason, the only guys that could change that were Owe and Ajabo. And, you know, Owe has had a couple of moments, but certainly nothing that has resembled consistency. And then Ajabo hasn't played. So it doesn't look good for getting your answer about that. And it looks like, again, separate macro, micro. Micro, they've gotten by. Micro, they've been okay. Macro, it does look like it might be the biggest problem on the roster come the off season. Like when the Ravens sit down, they, you know, obviously have to address their own free agents, and Justin Madubuike looks like he'll be at the top of that list and sort of crosses over into the territory of the edge rush department because he's made up for so much of it. Patrick Queen, Geno Stone, those guys. But as far as just overall roster holes, it looks more like that will be the problem the Ravens will be faced with primarily at the end of the season after they didn't attempt to acquire. Well, I say they didn't attempt to acquire. They might have attempted to acquire and just weren't going to pay Montez Sweat $25 million a year.
Don't know if the Browns will either.
What?
If the Browns will, or the Bears.
The Bears already did.
They did? They already extended it?
Boy, good to have you back, pal.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
what?
nice that you decided to stick around. Why do you think I used the number $25 million? It's the actual number that he was paid. But good to see you. Hope that it was a good trip. Did you hear the Ravens won?
They did?
Yikes.
Hey, good for Montez Sweat.
Yeah, good for Montez Sweat. Good for Montez Sweat. 4 years, $98 million for Montez Sweat. All right, so yeah, nothing else particularly from John Harbaugh yesterday that stood out to me. Just continuing to roll along. The good news, you never hope for anybody to be hurt, but on top of everything else, Cleveland will apparently now be without Jedrick Wills as well on Sunday, so you would think that gives an advantage to the Ravens in the way that they try to go after Deshaun Watson in Sunday's game, who certainly looked better. I know it's a low bar, and I know that it wasn't a particularly good opponent, but I don't know. I guess we at least file that away that he looked better. That's all I can keep saying. It was better. So there's that. I don't know. We'll talk to folks out in Cleveland this week and figure out where they are with Deshaun Watson at this point. Is at the moment, it looks like the worst contract ever given out, but maybe there's still room there for it to get solved at some point and for him to at least resemble something similar. I just can't help think about how much better shape I would feel like I would be if I was the Houston Texans than if I were the Cleveland Browns. I can't stop thinking about that. Like the Houston Texans, for everything they've been through, they come out of it with what looks to be an absolute rock star and more pieces than I think we realized they had. And I was someone who was bullish about the Texans coming into the year. Remember, I was on I think there's something there. I think they're putting something together. I think there's talent. I think they have a good coach. And even I didn't see this necessarily coming where they were going to be competitive and relevant. I thought it may be more of like a late season push where you look up and you're like, oh wow, the Texans are 7-10. That's kind of remarkable. Well, they're relevant. They're not. This is the AFC. It's probably not going to lead to them getting into the postseason, but God, C.J. Stroud is exciting, man. That guy is a star, like a must-watch type of dude. I very much enjoy. I hate saying it this way because I remember the feeling when Deshaun Watson first burst on the scene, and we were all like, "Dude, put that guy on TV every week. Like, make that the national TV game every late window every week. Give me Deshaun Watson." Now that did not pan out for myriad reasons, but that's the way that we felt. Like, we felt like that guy was must-watch TV when he started his career. And right now, I'm starting to think that C.J. Stroud, different type of player, but I'm thinking he is must-watch TV moving forward, man. He is exciting. All right, so that covers the John Harbaugh thing. The football game last night was atrocious, absolutely horrendous, but ultimately, I guess reason won out. I apologize. I told you guys I was betting on the Jets. The funny thing is, I guess I'm stunned by how bad it was last night, only because I haven't been watching. I think that I allowed myself to forget that they needed to barely eke out and get the benefit of some tomfoolery in order to beat a Giants team that is god awful. I think I allowed myself to buy into the idea of, well, you can't trust the Chargers, and the Chargers should have won that game last night. I know Justin Herbert didn't do much, but he was up against Zach Wilson. So they should have won that game. I guess apparently before the game, Aaron Rodgers was telling some people that he'd be back within a few weeks.
I mean,
okay.
I mean,
I don't know what he means.
If all you need is a statue back there, I mean,
right. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm not even going to attempt to. This is not a.
You assume a statue of Aaron Rodgers is better than
Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson?
I would assume a statue of most people is somehow better. I don't think that again, we're talking about very low bars when it comes to this. We are really setting the bar low when we have these conversations. I don't know, man. If I'm the Jets, I am. Yes, sure. By all means, come right back. We will be happy to have you. I mean, they're still 4-4. I haven't looked at what their schedule is for the next couple of weeks. I couldn't tell you if they actually have a chance here. I don't think that the Steelers the bit right now is that all 4 of the AFC North teams are currently holding playoff positions. I would still be surprised by the Steelers and Browns being able to comfortably hold on to those positions all year long unless for some reason Deshaun Watson really becomes Deshaun Watson again, versus teams that have legitimate quarterbacks. We can be as dismissive of the Chargers if we want. At the end of the day, they're the team that has the quarterback. So the Bills, for example. I don't think the Bills, I know we're all disappointed by them, but I don't think they're going to be on the outside looking in at the playoffs at the end of the year. I think the Jets pull up their schedule just for funsies. Right?
So they have Sunday Night Football with the Raiders this week.
So certainly winnable, although the Raiders obviously look like they had new life with Antonio Pierce as their coach.
At Buffalo, Dolphins twice. They do have the Falcons and Commanders in there. Texans looks like a hard one now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on if Aaron Rodgers is back by then and what Aaron Rodgers. You absolutely know that in his mind he's back for that Black Friday game. You got to know that's what this is. Because Amazon's pumping it hard, right? They're all trying to make this Black Friday game a thing.
That's
I don't know that we have decided as a society yet. The way that we are willing to operate around primetime games, I don't know if as a society we've decided that we're willing to shut down at 3 o'clock on a Friday. I know it's Black Friday, I understand that, and I know most people have the day off, but you're also still tending. I don't know yet if we've all decided that we're going to coalesce around. We're sitting in front of a TV or whatever it is to watch a football game on a Friday afternoon. Obviously, in those markets, they will. I know last year that was about the same time that the USA-England match was on in the World Cup, and it felt like we were willing to kind of shut down. And you understand what I'm saying. Not everyone, obviously, but the overwhelming majority in order to make it. I don't know yet where we are. So I almost wonder if, like, the NFL or Amazon is in cahoots. Like, dude, we got to make sure this works. If you're coming back, we need you to make sure it's for that game. We're trying to establish this for the first time. We don't send Zach Wilson out. Not that I am going to have other plans that day. I do, like, my family does get together on that. That's when we do our Thanksgiving is on Friday. Oh, piss.
Yeah.
We probably will get together at, like, 5 o'clock.
Well, it shouldn't be a good game, so.
Well, now, this is where it's like, am I willing to have my phone out for my family's? Although we're doing it at my cousin's house now, so I'd imagine, he probably won't care enough to put it on the. He's weird like that. Like, if it was a Penn State football game, he'd be like, we're going to have it on. Like,
maybe a college basketball on or something.
No, nothing like that. He cares about the Ravens and Penn State, and, like, that's the list. Like, he cares deeply about those things. But if I told him, like, hey, man, Jets Dolphins is on, he'd probably be like, dude, who the F cares? So it would be the bit where I've got to leave my phone out, like, and have everybody be like, hey, Glenn, really? Really? Although at this point, I'd like to hope that they understand that it's my job. I'd like to think that, it's only been doing it for 20 years or whatever it is at this point. I think that it would, my interest in that would be dependent upon whether or not Aaron Rodgers is playing. If it was Zach Wilson, I feel like I'm not going to be inclined to have my phone out at Thanksgiving dinner with my family. What are the Thanksgiving games this year?
Good question.
I don't even remember.
Cowboys play.
Really? Breaking news from Griffin. The Cowboys are going to play on Thanksgiving. Thanks,
Lions,
buddy.
I think the Lions play noon.
Dynamite observation. You're killing it. This guy, you can't get anything past this guy. This guy over
Except for
here.
Montez Sweat. You can't. That's the only thing you can get past.
Right.
Packers at Detroit at 12:30. Washington at Dallas.
Ugh.
And then San Francisco at Seattle is the nightcap.
It's okay. I mean, God. Like, that's different, though, because it's sort of like part of the all right, so our Thanksgiving bit is that we do lunch at my mother-in-law's house. And then we're, like, expected to just, like, lay around all day. It's not a joke. Like, we're expected. I think it's a parent thing. Like, I want to have you in my house. Like, we are expected to just sit there for, like, hours and then go to their, like, childhood friends that, like, basically they call cousins, go to their house at night for dinner. And I like them a great deal, so that's never bothered me. I enjoy it. And they've got, kids that are around my kids' age, so it's very sweet. They're like, they have 2 girls, we have 2 boys, and they all, like, cuddle and watch movies together. It's very sweet. So, in a way, I almost prefer it to be games I don't care about, because that in that setting, they're also, it's, like, more formal. The dinner is more, like, they set out placemats, and, like, it's a very formal setting for that. Mr. Jim will sometimes, like, do bananas Foster for dessert. I'll be like, dude, this is a little bit much for your boy. I'm good. So I would almost rather the games not be good so that I don't feel like I need to have the phone out. Like, if it was, Bengals Bills on Thanksgiving night, then I'd feel inclined to be like, hey, thank you for inviting me over. I need to watch this football game. You're going to have to deal with that. 49ers Seahawks, like, It's just not, they're not quarterbacks there. Like, I want to watch quarterbacks. That's where I am. All right, that's what I've got for you. That's what I prepared. Oh, college basketball stuff. Bummer for UMBC, man. Oh, God, man. That was a bummer. What a bummer that was. I know Louisville stinks. So, like, at the end of the year, it wouldn't be like some monumental thing that they beat Louisville. But still, these things don't happen all the time. You still don't regularly beat ACC teams when you're a team like UMBC. If you missed it, UMBC nipped by 1 point at the end. 94-93. They lose to Louisville last night in their season opener.
It might have been my fault.
So
at the same time, I was texting my friend. I was like, look, Towson's only down by 4 to Colorado.
Yeah.
And then Colorado won like a 22.
That did not end up being a particularly close game.
And at the same time, I was like, UMBC's beating Louisville.
Yeah.
And just within a matter of minutes, both things evaporated quickly.
Yeah.
So.
James Madison beat Michigan State, which was wild. That was kind of a crazy way to start the season. And the LSU women, defending national champions, lost to Colorado as well. So Towson basketball's in good company. Towson and the LSU women right there, both starting their season the exact same way. As that was kind of a stunner out in Las Vegas that LSU dropped their opener on what is otherwise a very mild first week of college basketball season. There's just not a lot of these big marquee events. Like the big ESPN thing is next Tuesday night. I don't know why it wouldn't be tonight. Start a college basketball season? No. Next Tuesday night is that event. Although Michigan State's part of that, and so I think it's Michigan State Duke. Like, hey, Michigan State will be fine in this is the problem. Somehow they got to convince that the season starts in March. Like, guys, it's March. Play like we're gonna play in March today. They just can't do that. They always start the season in a very difficult manner, and they lose to James Madison last night in the season opener. I think that was about all that stood out from the college basketball opening night.
Princeton beat Rutgers. That was nice.
Why do you care?
Because I bet on Princeton.
Oh, okay. I mean, good for you. Good for you. I have nothing else to say about that whatsoever. All right, today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. We had to do this a little bit earlier because of her schedule, but an opportunity to catch up with CBS's Tracy Wolfson right here on GCR. Well, it was great, not only the Ravens' performance on Sunday, but the A-level broadcast that we got to enjoy of the game. The top crew from CBS was in town, and it's a pleasure now here on GCR to welcome back to the program one of our friends. She was working the sidelines here in Baltimore on Sunday. She is the great Tracy Wolfson, and she's back with us now here on the program. Tracy, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Tracy, I was talking about this with our friend Sherry Burris yesterday, and I talked about it, I remember, with Tom Rinaldi a couple weeks ago. As an interviewer, do you get all frustrated like the Ravens are so hell-bent on no-selling all of their success right now that, like, all of these players are just like, nope, it's just one game. We're not, like, nobody's willing to, like, really enjoy it and celebrate these big wins they're getting?
I know, they're just totally in focus mode, but I think that's probably what makes them so good. But yeah, of course, whenever you're trying to, do an interview post-game, you want to get whatever you possibly can out of them. But, you know the personalities, you know what you're getting into, you expect it, and this is just how they run. They kind of fly under the radar, and certainly I feel like they've done that the first, bunch of weeks of the season, and then I think after the performance they had this week, I think they've certainly got everyone's attention.
I guess that's the part that, like, we're struggling with, Tracy, is like, I don't know. I think we're almost allergic. It's sort of like talking about a no-hitter, right? You're not supposed to talk about how well a team is performing. You're supposed to complain about things. You're supposed to I feel like we're struggling to accept the fact that it's possible the Ravens might be the best, most complete team in the NFL at the moment.
Well, I don't know. I've been listening to talk radio all morning, and I can tell you that everyone's talking about it. So I think it's just a matter of the Ravens trying to, just fend off the noise and try and avoid it because, of course, I mean, that does you nothing, right? You still got to focus on the next game and the schedule ahead, which is certainly not easy. So there's no reason to embrace it right now, right? I think you're just trying to get better week by week. I'm sure they'll come out of that game and have some, the fumbles. Of course, Harbaugh told me at halftime while they dominated that first half, he had to mention the fumbles, right? So they'll walk away from that game, know what they need to clean up. But they really feel like, from talking to them over the weekend, they really feel that, they've got what it takes right now. Certainly health is always an issue and has been for the Ravens in the past, but they've got an absolutely nasty defense. Lamar is playing at an MVP-like level, and they're able to move the ball, and they're doing it on both sides. So there's no reason not to think that this team, could be successful down the stretch and have a chance at a Super Bowl.
Tracy, I don't know, if you can get this type of, like, the feel for whether a team, what you just brought up with, like, the business-like way that they're handling it. And I get that there are teams that have good camaraderie, but yet they're just not good enough, right? But like there feels like there is something different. This feels like it's kind of a special group. Did you come away from a trip to Baltimore thinking like, oh, on the field, off the field, this is a team that if they can keep this going, genuinely has an opportunity to make a Super Bowl run?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I do feel that way a lot when I'm standing on the sidelines, and I can tell when a team has it. And, it might not work in their favor in the end because of situations or injuries for that matter, but you know that they have it because it works on both sides of the ball. The Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, I basically live there, right? I do almost all of their games. I've seen all their runs, and I know when they have it. It's very obvious to me. So, yes, standing back there, watching this team from the sidelines, talking to them this week, talking to Harbaugh, talking to Lamar and these players, you feel as though they feel like there's something special. And you watch them from the sideline, on Sunday, and you can tell the joy, and certainly it's always joy when you're winning, right, and you're dominating and having that performance. But what I love about this team is they're kind of stacked from top to bottom, but they're almost like, I don't want to say no names, but faceless, nameless. Like there's not just one star. They're all stars. They all work together. They all, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you can go through every position.
Yep.
And every one of those guys is stepping up in a way. And same offensively, you don't know all of a sudden Keaton Mitchell is the hero, and you're certainly not what you expected. So, that's what I see so far from this Ravens team, no doubt.
She is Tracy Wolfson from CBS. Of course, she was in Baltimore on Sunday for the Ravens' big win over the Seahawks. Tracy, I feel like it's an interesting, uniquely these Ravens are going to be measured, and particularly because of Lamar, that one of the things that we find ourselves saying is, hey, this is great, but Lamar, typically, when he's been on the field, the Ravens have won games, and they've been very good. Maybe they haven't won all of them by 30 points over good teams, but, in his history, when he's been healthy and been on the field, the Ravens have typically won football games. Do the Ravens face a greater... I remember Peyton Manning feeling this a little bit early on in his career, but is there a greater burden of proof for them when it comes to the playoffs, right? Because they just haven't done it there. And that uniquely, they still have to... as good as this is, they still have to prove that simply because, the quarterback for everything he's accomplished hasn't done that before.
I think they have to prove they can sustain it for a whole season and throughout the playoffs. We've seen the story before. And look around the league, look at the AFC. It's not going to be easy, certainly. And we always come back to the health of Lamar down the stretch of the season. There was a little bit of a scare when he started hobbling during one of those drives. And you're like, oh, no, right? But, he came out just fine. And I think, this is what it is when you think about the Ravens until they get back to the Super Bowl. So, they have a tough schedule ahead. We see the AFC North. Every one of those teams right now are in the playoffs. And there's, other teams that have, been able to go further as you look at the Cincinnati Bengals being one of them who's playing tremendous football right now as well. So, yeah, there's still a lot of football left to be played. And you're right. They need to not only get to the playoffs, last a whole season, get to the playoffs, but produce in the playoffs.
We're totally nitpicking at this point, right? Because they're playing so well. Is there, do you come away from saying, okay, but this is maybe something that would still concern me? I hate even doing this. This is the nature of the job that we have to attempt to have these conversations. But, I almost feel silly when I say it because when you're playing so well, what you put it out about defense. I would say it all. I don't know that there's a position group on this roster that you would say you don't feel at least good about when it comes to the Ravens right now.
I would agree. From top to bottom. I think that's why everyone watched that game in domination, expecting, by the way, a really good game with a good Seattle team. And you walk away from that and you're like, wait a second. They are from top to bottom, like you said, they are clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And you feel comfortable with every player at every position. I want to select let's point out Geno Stone, who stepped into a role because Marcus Williams is out, and he leads the league in interceptions. And you're like, wait, who's Geno Stone?
Yeah.
Right? But the guy is producing each week. By the way, my new favorite player, I talked to him pregame, and then he came up to me on the sideline thanking me for interviewing him.
Oh, that's
pregame.
cool.
I mean,
how
awesome is that, right?
That's
So,
cool.
I mean, I will say you're right. From top to bottom, you do not see, any issues with this team. It again, and we've been saying it over and over, it comes with the health of Lamar and how he plays. And Harbaugh will tell you that right out off the bat, and that's what he told us going into the game. If Lamar plays well, we will win this game. That's how they truly believe, and he did, and he consistently has throughout this season so far. And so I think it comes down to that, and of course it comes down to protecting the football, because they got lucky with those 2 fumbles that it didn't really result in much. Maybe a field goal, but you can't do that against better teams.
No, I think that's the one thing you keep pointing out and saying. It's been a little bit too much of it as the season goes on, and particularly with Lamar and Justice Hill, and they're going to have to clean that up entirely. Who else is in that group, like Tracy, right now for you? And you obviously, as you point out, you see the Chiefs plenty. You see the top teams in the AFC. I know you're seeing a little bit more of the NFC in recent years. But who is in that group of teams that you feel like have separated themselves as like viable, I could absolutely see this team winning a Super Bowl types of teams?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can never really bet against the Chiefs.
Of course
because
not.
They are who they are,
Yep.
and then they've done what they've done, and now they have a defense that is actually, where it is, where Steve Spagnuolo wanted this defense to be, and they're winning with their defense, which is, not what we always expect from Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, put them aside, right? I did the Cincinnati game last week, and I walked away from that, and I'm like, they're back. They remind me of that team that got to the Super Bowl. And especially, again, it comes down to defense. And so, I definitely put them up there. Miami hasn't been able to win the big game. They've played, 3 tough teams, and they've lost all 3 of those games. So until they, are able to do that or go on the road and win a game, that's a big one, an important one. I can't put them in there yet, but I do think they're extremely explosive and talented, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and I've been able to see them in person. And then I definitely would put the Ravens in there. So those are probably my 4 in the AFC. I haven't had a chance to really see the Jaguars enough. I think they're sneaky. They can slide right in there, really depending, and they're certainly in a division that they can win. So that's kind of where I am in terms of, the teams I've seen so far this season in the AFC.
I think that's fair. I'm starting to wonder if there might actually be like more Texans assignments coming up for you in the future, considering how exciting. My God, that young man is exciting to watch. Like,
oh my God.
He is
but
something.
You're talking to a Michigan fan, So
oh, that is true. That's got to be difficult. Maybe we shouldn't bring up Michigan right now. Maybe we should move right past that at the moment. I don't know how you. I guess that's the good news about not having to cover it, right? Is it like you can just approach it as a fan when it comes to a story like that right now, Trey?
Blinders. You just keep your blinders on. Just focus on one game at a time.
Way nicer when that's the case. Did I see you're headed out to LA next week?
I am, yeah. We just got the assignment. It was a quick one. We thought maybe we'd be in Pittsburgh for that game, and but now we're headed out to LA for the Chargers and the Lions. Haven't had a chance to see the Lions this season, so that'll be fun. And we did see the Chargers a few weeks back. So another West Coast trip for us, but I will take some warm weather.
Hey, you know what? It was we got spoiled here in Baltimore. We're normally used to it being about 20 degrees around now, and so we were.
I felt very fortunate.
Yeah, it was a blessing for y'all to get this one this week. At Tracy Wolfson, of course, is how you follow her on Twitter. Tracy, is there anything else we can plug for you?
No, you're awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Tracy, thank you as always taking the time for us. We really enjoy it.
Okay, thanks. Talk to you.
That's Tracy Wolfson. Hey, Tracy, you still there? Nope. Boy, we did not do that well. Apologies. Send that to me so I can cut it and make sure that I fix it. Boy. All right. Apologies. But, yes, it is Tracy Wolfson here on Glenn Clark Radio. Appreciate her taking the time for us today. When we come back in, we will find out what's going on in the world of local high school sports, as it'll be time for County Sports Zone Radio into the playoffs in football. Big games coming up this week. We'll talk about it with our guy, Wes Brown. Today's show brought to you by Superbook Sports. I was looking at some of the numbers at Superbook. So, of course, college basketball season is indeed underway. And tonight, Maryland, 21-point favorites against Mount St. Mary's. I heard my guy Jeremy Kahn say he would be on the Mount tonight, would be on the Mountaineers this evening. So if you like betting with Jeremy, which you shouldn't have done in our pick segment this past weekend, but if you like betting with Jeremy, then maybe you put a few shekels on Mount St. Mary's. The good news is, even if he's wrong, if you use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook.com or download the Superbook app, then you will receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match. So even if you're wrong, even if Maryland wins by 50 tonight and you bet Mount St. Mary's, you'll get up to $250 in free bets right back to you based on how much you put in on that first bet. So I would go ahead and use that code GlennClark23 tonight. Sign up, Superbook.com or the Superbook app. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Todd Karpovich profiles the Orioles' survivors, Anthony Santander, Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, and Ryan Mountcastle, who all came from the previous regime but stuck through tough times to be key pieces in guiding the franchise back to prominence. Also inside, we remember the iconic Brooks Robinson with tributes from Jim Henneman and myself, Stan the Fan Charles, and a trip down memory lane to remember the most significant moments of his career. Plus, we meet players from college basketball programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Visit Harford County. Gear up for the holidays by supporting local with Small Business Saturday on November 25th. Take in the dazzling sights of the season with a Ladue Christmas at Ladue Topiary Gardens. Enjoy holiday lights, sing along to holiday songs, reserve a carriage ride, and sit on Santa's lap in Bel Air's Winter Wonderland, happening every Saturday from November 25th until December 16th. Nothing sparks that holiday joy quite like a festive parade. Head to visitharford.com and click on Events to see the full list of parades and so much more. In Maryland, you're welcome.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Hey, give me a second here before we get into County Sports Zone Radio, because I have loosely announced it, but I want to make it a little bit more formal. This Sunday, I'm going to be hanging out at Towson University for the Ravens game. And Femi Ayanbadejo is going to join me at some point during the game, and then we're going to do our portion of Project Game Day live from Towson University. And the reason why we're going to be there is because it's a very special day. Of course, this Saturday technically is Veterans Day, but on Sunday, Towson University is hosting a Veterans Day celebration and resource fair. Family-friendly event. It's going to honor and celebrate local vets and provide information on resources available to vets throughout Baltimore County. It's presented by Towson University's Military and Veterans Center and the Baltimore County Commission on Veterans Affairs. There's going to be great vendors, free food, benefits, information sessions during the morning on Sunday, live music, DJ. There'll be opportunities for you to get connected with other veterans in the community. It's just going to be a great, fun, family-friendly event on Sunday. And part of it is you want to invite everybody to hang out, watch the game, and then stick around after the game as Femi and I will be doing the post-game show from right there at Towson University. So all of that, it starts at 10 a.m. on Sunday in the Student Union at Towson University, the University Union, I believe they call it. We would love to see you there. It's very neat and special for us that we get to be a part of this thing and lift up and honor our veterans in the process. You can meet a Super Bowl champion in Femi Ayanbadejo. Even if you can't come by until the game's over, come by when the game's over. We'll be hanging out there then. But it's a free event. You can find out more. I shared a link on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. If you just scroll down a little bit, there's a link there with a QR code, and you can scan that and find out more about the event. Encourage you to come out and join us this Sunday as we celebrate our area veterans and we try to help them out. As it's a topic that we don't like talking about, but I think everybody is aware that there is a particularly high suicide rate amongst our vets. And we want to do everything we can to try to help out veterans with connections, opportunities, anything that we can to improve their lives and help them out. So we'll be there on Sunday as part of this Veterans Day celebration and resource fair at Towson University, and we'll be talking more about it throughout the course of the week for our a very special version of Project Game Day as Femi and I. And Ken Zales told me he will be there as well on Sunday, so I like that a great deal. All right. Let me know when we're good. All right. Give me the old thumbs up when we're good. Okay. Yeah, we are. Look at that. There's the thumbs up. It's that time of the week. It's time for us to find out what's going on in the world of high school sports. It's time for County Sports Zone Radio. Joining us now from County Sports Zone, he is our friend Wes Brown. Wes, good morning, pal. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Everything is good, man. I know we got into playoff action this past weekend at the public school level in football. Not necessarily a ton of upsets, but run me through the things that stood out from the first weekend.
Yeah, so Oakland Mills out in Howard County started the season, on the wrong foot there, but, came alive, beating some teams down the stretch and actually knocked off River Hill, the number 3 seed there, 29-6.
I feel like you're underselling it when you say they got off to it. They really they got off to an 0-6 start to the season and still made the playoffs.
Yes. Yeah, it was a really tough start to the Howard County season there for the Scorpions.
Wow. This is kind of like, I guess we don't really see this much at any level of football, but my God, to go from 0-6 to cruising in the first round of the playoffs. That's kind of a wild turnaround.
Yeah, for sure.
What else stood out to you?
Manchester Valley lost to Westminster early in the season, but managed to beat Westminster, who is the 3 seed in the 3A West region. Again, not too many upsets, but a couple battles there that kind of stood out.
Our friend Fighting Griffin Basses of Manchester Valley.
Hey, that's just what happens, man.
Yeah, that's
when you that's just what happens. You go.
What does that
even
mean? That's just what
you
happens.
go into the den, and the Mavericks
they
show you how it's done.
Right. Okay. All right, Guy. So I'm going to go a little out of order of what you planned. So that's week 1. Now we move into week 2. I assume there's some bigger matchups maybe that are setting up for this week.
Definitely, yeah. In most regions, it's almost entirely the 1st through 4 seeds, other than a couple, 5s beating 4s and those 6 beating 3s. But not too many, lopsided matchups. So hopefully this week we have a lot more. Plus we have all the 1 seeds that'll be in action that were on buys this past week.
So anything that you want to highlight as far as big games are concerned this week?
Yeah, so kind of like we mentioned last week, Dundalk cruised to a win in their first matchup.
I already heard from our friend John in Little Rock. He was waiting to find out if you were going to bring this up, and I'm very glad because he's very excited about this of his Dundalk Owls.
Yeah, it'll be a tough matchup, but they face Broadneck here in round 2. So, Broadneck's a team that's usually the 1 or the 2 seeds. So it'll be kind of tough this week, but they have an opportunity to win that, potentially advance to a region final.
Let me just ask again. I'm going off script a little bit. I know that in some years it has felt like the playoffs were almost like, hey, we're going to do this, but it's just an exercise because everyone knows at certain levels who the best teams are. Is there any of that going on this year? We're like, hey, this is fun and we're doing this, but when we get to it, there's not really going to be any debate about who's going to win at, say, the 3 level, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, usually kind of into the region finals, you kind of get that. You kind of expect Quince Orchard to get through there.
Sure.
In the Flowers Wise region, that's most likely going to be the region final. So there is a little bit of parity in some of the other regions, but there definitely are some of those regions where you know who should win.
All right, we asked for an athlete of the week, and I happen to know that this week's athlete of the week comes to us from the high school football playoffs and some video game numbers that were put up by a Linganore running back.
Yeah, Ethan Arneson here ran for 219 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 63-6 win over Rockville. Uncommitted senior, but he's the Lancers' all-time leading scorer, and he's only 60 yards away from the Frederick County rushing record. And he's also climbing up the state record charts, 9th all-time, and he's actually could be pushing Jake Funk this week for 6th all-time.
Maryland and Damascus legend Jake Funk, who I once saw score 7 touchdowns in a state title game. That Jake Funk. Wow, that is an impressive number. Linganore, I thought they only produced offensive linemen out there. I didn't realize they also produced skills position players. Every time I would see Linganore, it would somehow be like, wow, all your linemen are all 315 pounds and all of ours are 200 pounds. That's weird. Very weird how it works out there. Wes Brown with us for County Sports Zone Radio. Wes, I know it's not just the football playoffs that have been going on. Get us caught up on what's going on elsewhere in fall sports.
Yeah, so we got field hockey state semifinals tomorrow and Thursday, and their state championships are actually Saturday at Paint Branch. Really interesting that they're moving it to Paint Branch instead of having it at, I think it was at Washington College last year, so a little bit more accessible here in the middle of the state. And then we also have the soccer state semifinals coming up Friday, Saturday, along with the round 2s for volleyball and football this week, and then also cross country championships are Saturday at Hereford. And all of that,
all the brackets and everything can be found at countysportszone.com, correct?
Yep.
I happened to see that it was MIAA. That was a lot of people in my life were out at the MIAA soccer championships this past weekend as Loyola Blakefield won the A crown, beating John Carroll there. And I believe it was St. Paul's who won the B crown. And a high drama in the C conference between Beth Tafilo and Friends, as if I remember right, that went to a shootout before Friends ultimately came away with that, the Fighting Kenzalises. So I know that was a big day out at the Under Armour complex for the MIA championships this past weekend. So where are we with like the MIAA football? Where are we with that as far as the playoffs are concerned?
Yeah, the regular season's wrapping up here, and the playoffs should be coming soon. It's kind of similar to the MPSSAA, those first round kind of matchups. Might not be as exciting, but we'll definitely have more on the championships and whatnot.
Excellent. Anything else that we should know about this week, Wes?
I think we're good for this week, but next week we'll have some new state champions to talk about.
Excellent. Remind everybody what they can find at County Sports Zone and where they can find you and CSZ on social media.
Yeah, so at CSZ Scores on Twitter, I'm W_Brown21 on Twitter, and you can go to County Sports Zone for all the scores, schedules, brackets, pretty much anything involving high school sports in the state of Maryland.
Excellent. Wes Brown, appreciate you, man. We'll talk again next week, all right?
All right, sounds good.
It's Wes Brown from County Sports Zone with us here on GCR. Yeah, I don't. It's amazing. The MIAA is amazing because I had so many people in my life like, I can't believe they're doing this on Sunday. The Ravens play on Sunday, and yet they had a massive. Of course, they had a huge crowd. Like they had no problem getting everybody to come out to watch the soccer championships on Sunday at Under Armour because that's what they do. That's just the way that it works. And congratulations, Blake Field, obviously winning the A Conference title. I don't care. I gotta tell you, I got a real problem in my life. My children, because they go to a private school,
they think
like they're now. I think I've talked about this before on the show. I cannot afford any of this, but my younger son, they would have gone to Jacksonville Elementary. My younger son would have been doing kindergarten the year of the pandemic. So he would have been doing kindergarten on the computer. And Mrs. Clark was not thrilled with the idea of him doing kindergarten on a computer. So she got it. Like, really? You're going to have him do it? And I'm like, all right, fine. By the way, Friends won 1-0. I don't know why I thought it went to a shootout. Friends won 1-0. Congratulations to the Fighting Kenzalises. So, you know what it really is? I went to double check on the website, and the website had it listed as a 0-0 final. So I was like, oh, they must have won in a shootout. The website somehow was wrong. Not their website, the MIAA soccer championship website.
County Sports would never.
No, they would never. I went to the wrong resource for this. That's on me. I should have known myself. I just wanted to double check before I said it out loud and screwed it up in the process. Anyway, the moral of the story is, so I said, fine, we'll figure it out. We got a nice scholarship in order to send him to the private school. And then after that, she was like, what, you're going to pull him out of private school? After the first year, she was like, you're going to pull him out? He's got friends, and you're going to pull him out? And I was like, oh. Fine. Like she guilted me into it. And then the second one was getting ready for kindergarten, and she's like, oh, and what are you going to do? Have him go to different schools? So now they're both in the private school, which is fine. It's lovely. I enjoy it. They're nice people, the whole thing. But now they're around all these other kids whose parents can't afford these things, unlike us. And they're like, oh, my friends are all going to Loyola. I want to go to Loyola. And I just want to say, like, well, do you have $100,000 lying around? Because if you do, by all means, go tomorrow.
I mean, yeah, you should just tell them that.
Go right ahead. If you don't, I don't know what we're doing here, guy. Somebody's got to foot that bill, and it sure as hell ain't going to be Dad. Daddy does not have, unless they need a play-by-play guy. Unless they want to, trade, I can peddle my wares. I don't think that's going to be happening for you, pal. I'm so sorry. Unlike Drew, who was like, I'll just go be the golf coach. Like, oh, okay. Trade it off that way.
You could probably coach golf, too. Like,
yeah,
what else? Like, really? Like, what?
Yeah. I could
what
totally.
Else, if Drew can do it.
Handle that. Offer to go be the tennis coach.
Yeah,
hit the ball. That's the problem is, like, I've actually been asked about coaching tennis at other schools. And I'm like, I know that I like tennis. And I know that I was a pretty good tennis player. But, like, I've never done this before. I've never coached toddlers.
That's the thing, though. Nobody else has.
That's not true. There's lots of tennis coaches in the world. Tons of them.
In this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're private coaches. I mean, they're people that have actually coached
so why are they
in some
you?
way. I don't know, Griffin. I guess because people associate me with tennis, so they just kind of assume. I have been asked about coaching tennis. I have declined. At some point, I wanted to say, like, maybe I should just go be a volunteer for a little while. Like,
see if you like it.
Watch how someone else's coaches tennis and then say, okay, I can do that. But that has not been the case. All right, when we come back in, we will preview Maryland basketball season, which gets underway tonight. Our guy Patrick Stevens, Mr. Discourse himself, will check in with us. Later on today, Stan the Fan, Charles Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson. I might have to start telling you that's a Tuesday show and not a Monday show anymore. I don't know what's going on, but they're going to be doing that later on today as they rescheduled it again for this week to Tuesday. So make sure you join them. 5:30 p.m. They'll talk about the awards finalists, both Brandon Hyde and Gunnar Henderson, finalists for Manager of the Year and Rookie of the Year, respectively. There's this internet hubbub that perhaps they've already given away who the winners are. It's a very weird bit. I don't know what to make of it. But they'll be talking about that coming up later on this afternoon. Stan, Ross, and Luke. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Patrick Stevens next. Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 17th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and AJ Michaels, and if you or a loved one have a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
The Orioles brought us a summer we'll never forget in 2023, securing their first division title in 9 years. And while the playoffs ended quicker than we had hoped in Birdland, the future is brighter than ever. I'm Paul Valley, and along with Zach Goodman, we'll be with you on the Bat Around all off-season, warming our hands by the hot stove. From the GM meetings to the winter meetings to the start of spring training, the Bat Around has you covered for every trade, signing, and transaction as the Orioles look to revamp and regroup for another postseason run. You can watch the show every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So tune into the Bat Around every Saturday right here at PressBox.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? AJ Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Visit Harford County. Gear up for the holidays by supporting local with Small Business Saturday on November 25th. Take in the dazzling sights of the season with a Ladue Christmas at Ladue Topiary Gardens. Enjoy holiday lights, sing along to holiday songs, reserve a carriage ride, and sit on Santa's lap in Bel Air's Winter Wonderland, happening every Saturday from November 25th until December 16th. Nothing sparks that holiday joy quite like a festive parade. Head to visitharford.com and click on Events, to see the full list of parades and so much more. In Maryland, you're welcome.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Coming up later on this hour, we will preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday with our guy Joe Serpico, as we will talk about how much it is that you should be throwing towards putting Keaton Mitchell on your team if he happens to be available. We will do that a little bit later on this hour. If you haven't picked up the new print issue of PressBox, it is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find PressBox. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Todd Karpovich has the cover story about the group of position players that stuck around from the Dan Duquette regime into this turnaround for the Baltimore Orioles. Hayes, Mullins, Mountcastle, Santander. Also inside some Brooks Robinson reflections, including an emotional one from Jim Henneman. And we also preview a little bit of college basketball as Luke Jackson spoke to players from around the state, all of the D1 programs, men's and women's. All of that inside this print issue of PressBox, available for free right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms. You can read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. And speaking of college basketball, he'll be joining us every Tuesday throughout the season. He is our friend, Mr. Patrick Stevens, Washington Post, at Discourse. I don't even know what else we're plugging for him anymore. Blue Ribbon, obviously, and he's back with us here on GCR. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well, Glenn. How are you? Happy college basketball season.
And to you as well. I know, we all know Louisville stinks, but it still would have been really cool for UMBC to have finished that off. I know that was probably the headline of night one on the local front is, like within centimeters of pulling off the upset of Louisville last night.
Yes. I think if you're sitting there lining up everybody locally as to who comes out of it feeling best about themselves, even though UMBC loses 94-93, they're the ones that probably feel as good as anybody, despite the fact that they had Louisville dead to rights there for a little bit. I think that was a 12-point game at one point. Yeah. 13. They were up 13 late in the first half. You look at what they were able to do. Deion Brown had 28 points on the road against an ACC team, at least in name anyway, and Bryce Johnson, the Chicago state transfer, had 21. You shoot 51%. You're probably sitting there, if you're UMBC, thinking, you shot 51%. You only had 11 turnovers. You made 11 of 21 from three. How did you not win this game? And the way you didn't win this game is because that Louisville does have some size and some athleticism. Even a bad ACC team usually has that. So, nonetheless, UMBC has to feel decent about having thrown this largely new team together and nearly picked off Louisville in one of the kind of headline games, attention-grabbing games of the night. If we're sitting here trying to figure out who feels second best about themselves locally, I'm going to say it's Loyola.
Okay.
Even with a 20-point loss at Florida, 93-73, that's better than maybe the kind of game you might have seen a year or two ago, where it's more like 73-53 or something like that in that kind of game. Florida kind of put it away quick in the second half. But overall, I thought that was probably about the sort of outcome you could have expected there. And, D'Angelo Steins played pretty well. He had 13 points. Tyson Commander had 15. That's probably not, given his size, a Deion Perry kind of game. And overall, though, Florida, a pretty good team, and Loyola has some work defensively in front of it. But that's not a dreadful result, all things considered.
So before we get to Maryland, the big story on the national front, of course, last night, Michigan State loses to James Madison at home in overtime, and it's equal parts shocking, but at the same time, somebody might joke, well, it's Michigan State in November. How can we be shocked by any result that they have at that point? What do we make of a Michigan State team that we thought was going to be more legitimate and ready to go from the beginning of the season, suffering that type of setback?
Well, first of all, if you're only going to have one guy play well, maybe two. Do we want to give them credit for Cohen Carr playing well? I think we should. But they're not going to beat anybody with a decent pulse on them if only Tyson Walker and a backup big play well. And that's what happened. AJ Hoggard had 9 points on 2 of 11 shooting. That isn't going to get done. And truthfully, let's be honest about the work that Mark Byington's done down in Harrisonburg. Like, James Madison's a pretty good team. And so TJ Bickerstaff, who'd been at Drexel previously in Boston College, had 21 and 14 in his debut for the Dukes. I mean, that's a guy that does have high major experience. Terrence Edwards Jr. is a really good player, and he had 24. But yeah, I think first of all, probably pushed Michigan State. They're the sort of team that probably got a little bit of a bump because, look, they won a couple games in the NCAA tournament last year, which people are often guilty of. I know I thought that the backcourt with Walker and Hoggard was reason enough to think that they would be a little more consistent this year.
Yeah.
This is kind of a mix between both them not being all that great last night and James Madison playing pretty well. But hey, it's a chance to point out that the Big Ten really isn't all that good prior to March. So we have that now that we can look at. So it's not as if Michigan State got run off the floor. We've seen worse opening night performances from high end teams in the past.
That's fair.
But certainly a great moment for James Madison.
Anything on the national front that stands out this week? I know the big event is next Tuesday night. The Michigan State Duke, Kansas, Kentucky. Anything on the national front that stands out for this first week?
Well, how about Arizona going to Duke on Friday?
Oh, right. I did forget about that. Yeah.
That's a pretty good game, and we just saw Arizona drop 120
on
Morgan State last night. You want to talk about a game where just about nothing went right for a team. That would be what Morgan State ran into last night with Arizona making 12 three-pointers, Arizona forcing 25 turnovers and getting 41 points off of them. So that to me is one of the highlights nationally this week. There's not a ton of great games this opening week, and we really don't get into too many of those early season tournaments until next week. There's the one that Maryland's in down in Asheville with Clemson and UAB and Davidson, but not necessarily the greatest launch to the college basketball season. There's certainly plenty of complaining about that yesterday as you looked at the number of non-Division ones that were playing D1 teams and what have you. And really not too many marquee games last night. I will point out one other thing I thought was really fascinating, and I thought, it's not necessarily a team that's local, but a guy that has some local ties. You look at what Pitt did last night, and the kid Carlton Carrington out of the St. Francis Academy had a triple-double in his first career game.
Seems good.
As they blasted North Carolina A&T last night. So that was one that stood out where it was, not only you're gonna play a lot, which was already pretty clear, but to go ahead and put up 18 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, that sets a pretty high standard moving forward.
All right, Patrick Stevens is with us here on GCR. Tonight, the season gets underway for Maryland, who we didn't have as part of our preview last week. So let's spend some time. Patrick, you more than anyone else probably in very good position to talk about what realistic expectations are. I don't think there's anybody in this business that's better than you when it comes to setting realistic expectations. So obviously there's things to like. It's a program that probably surpassed realistic expectations in the first year, a year ago with Kevin Willard. They add in some nice pieces. They bring back getting Jameer Young back was massive for this program, and some nice pieces in the front court, although it doesn't look like there's a lot of depth there, and that was certainly a problem a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reasonable way of looking at what this team can accomplish this season?
I think it can be a top 4 team in the conference, and I think it can be a team that is wearing a home jersey in the NCAA tournament. I think it's a borderline top 25 team. I think one of the things that, if you're a Maryland fan, you would like to see progress on is being a better road team after last season, going 1-9 in the league on the road, winning at Minnesota, who wasn't any good at all. They won at Louisville in non-conference play, who was even worse. So I think those are the things that you look at, that maybe there isn't quite as much depth to this team, but it's also not unthinkable that you get to the end of the season and you're sizing up the Big Ten, and you've got Jameer Young, and you've got Julian Reese, and you've got Dante Scott, who really does feel like he's been in College Park forever. I mean,
right.
Did his career overlap with Taj Holden? Somebody else who it felt like was in College Park forever.
For an eternity.
And then, one of the freshmen, whether it's Jamie Kaiser or Deshaun Harris-Smith, it wouldn't be shocking if they have 4 of the best 20 to 25 players in the league come the end of the season. And so that would probably constitute progress, particularly if those 2 freshmen, Kaiser and Harris-Smith in particular, are able to have really productive seasons. I think that bodes well, maybe not as well as it once did in college basketball when you actually had reason to believe you could keep a core group together year after year after year. But I still think that, assuming that they can keep guys at least for a second season, that would be a really good sign for them to be able to have that sort of a group to work with moving forward.
So is there any chance that either of those freshmen that you brought up is slicing into the offense running through Jameer Young, or this is Jameer Young didn't come back because he wasn't going to be the alpha of this team?
No, but there's going to be plenty of room for people to score.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. Like if Jameer Young comes out and he averaged 15-8 a game last year. So if he's around 17 points a game, they're going to want to be averaging 70 plus points.
Yep.
And so there's room for Deshaun Harris-Smith and for Jamie Kaiser Jr. and Julian Reese to all be in double figures as well and all be extremely productive players. And as we were talking about earlier with the depth issues, you start to wonder, do they have enough on that bench to make it so that they need those guys to be double figure scorers. And so, you look back at last season, it was not exactly the most robust scoring group beyond that top 5. I mean, Ian Martinez, who transferred to Utah State, was at 5.7 points a game, and the next highest was Patrick Emilian at 2.8. Yeah. So I think that's a real question for them. Can they establish a 7th or 8th guy? Because at this point, it isn't a matter of whether a Harris-Smith or Kaiser is sort of carving into Young's role. They need those dudes to play well.
Right, and all play together. And I would even think that the kid from Baltimore, John Lamoth, they're going to need him to be a part of that as well at some point. We'll see how many minutes there are for him. The front court depth, I think, is the thing that stands out, right? Julian Reese, the foul trouble was real a year ago. Are they in position to withstand it better? Are they going to be forced to try to go small more frequently and put maybe all of those freshmen on the floor together? How do they combat? It just doesn't seem like the depth is there to make up for it if Juju Reese continues to deal with foul issues.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a guy like a Jordan Geronimo from the Indiana transfer, as an undersized 4 type. You've got Dante Scott as a 4. Does a Swanton Roger take a step forward? Does Braden Pierce, a 7-footer in that freshman class, is he able to contribute some? In all likelihood, to me, this looks like a team that's not going to go terribly huge. I mean, their biggest lineup might just be their starting lineup, assuming it's Dante Scott at the 4 and Julian Reese at the 5. I mean, I don't see them being a team that has that sort of beefy front line that they're going to trot out there. I'll be curious. I'm really curious to see what they do tonight, just because they have, they had the 2 scrimmages behind closed doors. I don't know if we have a really great sense as to what they're going to look like. The good thing or the bad thing, depending on your perspective, is that they're going to have a chance to figure that out soon enough. I don't know if Davidson's necessarily a team that would expose a lot of that, especially since, you think of Davidson, you think of a team that's going to have guys that are able to step out at 6'8", 6'9", and shoot threes, and then it's potentially Clemson on Sunday. Clemson or UAB, I think might have a better shot at sizing up, what sort of matchups they're going to be able to utilize against that team rather than Davidson. But I agree. I don't see it as a team that has a ton of depth in the front court. But again, if the freshmen develop, you're probably going to take the approach of let's just, it's probably best to have your 5 best players out there or 5 of your 6 best players out there at a given time. It would not be surprising if it's a team that does not have a terribly deep, extensive rotation especially early on.
You mentioned the event down in Asheville this weekend. I know there's trips to Villanova, UCLA. Anything else in the non-conference like that we should look at and say, hey, that one might be slightly more interesting than perhaps you realize it is when you're just perusing the schedule?
Well, I think Ryder's a really good team out of the Metro Atlantic, and they should be one of the best teams in that conference. I'll offer another one up to you. A team that has played really well, has been to the NIT the last couple of years, is Alcorn State.
Okay.
And they have a fair bit back. That's a game on December 12th. It's after the two conference games. It's before finals, and I think they've got a little bit of feistiness to them. So I think that's one to maybe keep an eye on as maybe that's a team that could cause a little bit of problems. I mean, like anybody else in a one bid conference, you're probably not looking at a team with boatload of size or anything along those lines. If you'd asked me prior to last night, I would have said South Alabama was the team to keep an eye on, but they went out and lost to a non-Division I team. Lost to Mobile 83-74. So maybe not a year to be quite as high on the Jaguars, who come to College Park 2 days after Thanksgiving.
Anything else that you feel like people should be aware of before Maryland basketball season gets underway?
I think there's still a lot to learn, and I think that's what we're going to start to figure out tonight.
All right. I think that's a very fair way of looking at it, and now it's time for us to play our game. Ken Patrick Stevens, name the MLB teams that this particular player has played for. And I begin, Patrick, with one that I was, to me at first when I put the list together, I thought this was too random, we'd never get to it. But then I actually looked at it again, and I realized I knew 4 of the 5 teams myself, so I think there's almost no chance you won't do at least that well. Only an All-Star once in his career, but 5 teams for former pitcher Steve Traxel.
Steve Traxel, huh? Well, Steve Traxel was definitely a Cub.
Of course.
And I believe he was a Met.
So you've knocked out the bulk of his career.
And I believe he was an Oriole,
Most
right?
certainly was. And, in fact, made 2 stops with the Orioles. In 2007, was dealt to the Cubs, and then came back for 2008.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so two other spots for Steve Traxel.
He split the 2000 season between these 2 teams. I don't know why I remember one of them, but I have absolute memories of one of them.
Absolute memories of Steve Traxel being with one of these 2 teams in 2000. I was thinking maybe Cleveland?
Not Cleveland, no.
Not Cleveland? Okay, not Cleveland. And was he in Atlanta?
Not in Atlanta. So the reason why I remember, they're actually both AL East teams, but I only remember one of them.
Was he in Toronto and Tampa?
And Tampa, yes. Toronto and Tampa were the 2 that he split. And I remember Tampa for some reason. I don't know why I remember that he was in Tampa, but I remembered that for some reason. All right, so a 4-team one. We'll go a little bit more modern. Give me the 4 teams for 3-time All-Star Sonny Gray.
Sonny Gray has been with Oakland.
Yes.
the New York Yankees, Cincinnati, and Minnesota.
There you go. All right, what is the schedule for you this week, my friends?
It will be in College Park tonight, and then Towson and Coppin State for Larry Stewart's home opener on Thursday. The Coppin State was had its struggles, 100-55 loss down at Virginia Tech. Meanwhile, Towson coming off a loss out at Colorado. They were actually within 4 at halftime out there, and then gave up 4 threes in a row, and that was it. Lost 75-57. So that's Thursday. The Veterans Classic, hopefully you get the chance to talk to Ed DeChellis about that.
Yep.
Navy has Temple in that one, and College of Charleston faces Duquesne. That's Friday. Saturday will be down in D.C. for a couple games. And then Sunday, Towson's home opener, Robert Morris in town to take on the Tigers for a fairly late game, a 7 p.m. tip on a Sunday.
There might be a chance that I make an appearance. I'm doing an event at Towson on Sunday, so I might be sticking around to try to check out some of that game on Sunday night as well. At Discourse, D1 S Course, still want to plug Blue Ribbon?
Sure, Blue Ribbon Yearbook. Lots of good stuff in there. Just previewing the season. You can get your copy at blueribbonyearbook.com, either a hard copy or the digital version. The digital version would come pretty much immediately. Highly recommend it to be able to be prepared for everything this college basketball season.
Patrick Stevens, appreciate you as always, my friend. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Awesome, Glenn. Thanks so much for having me.
That's Patrick Stevens, our guy. Appreciate him taking the time for us. Again, Maryland, Mount St. Mary's tonight. Of course, you guys will be too busy at the Tyus Bowser show, so you'll find out later what happened in the Maryland game, and we'll have it. They'll put it up on one of the TVs at Guilford Hall Brewery tonight, so we'll poke in on it. Actually, it's not on TV tonight. Never mind.
About to say.
Not on TV tonight. I doubt they have a subscription to Big Ten Network Plus.
Yeah.
I'm going to doubt it. I don't know who does have a subscription to Big Ten Network Plus. No offense. I'm not trying to. Boy, I'm going to feel really stupid when they call and ask if I want a job. I love Big Ten Network Plus. It's the best. It's the same thing. It's the Flow Sport. It's one thing if you got to subscribe to ESPN Plus because you get a lot of stuff. Like, a lot. These other things, it's very specific. Like, I'm not ever going to be watching a Wisconsin field hockey game. That day is just not going to occur. By the way, Maryland, the number 4 seed in the NCAA field hockey tournament. They lost in the Big Ten championship game to Northwestern, I think, is who they lost to.
I think we're definitely going to get some Peacock games as well. Princeton was on Peacock.
Right, and that's the Peacock's fine. You get other content. They have shows. You can watch the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
You're
Soccer.
willing signing up. Yeah, sure. You get the soccer. If you're a pro wrestling fan, that's where all the WWE stuff is. Like, signing up for Peacock, not quite the same as signing up for Big Ten Network Plus when you're just I'm not going to be watching Michigan rowing. It's just not going to happen at any point, which is no offense, no disrespect to the Michigan rowers who are fine athletes. It's just not something I'm going to spend any time with. Is this your way of telling me we're taking a break before we talk to Joe Serpico?
No, I mean, I guess we can.
Up to I'm now, because I have to drink more water, in the era where I'm going to have to start taking pee breaks during the show.
Gotcha.
I spent more time yesterday peeing than I did working. I can't drink water like this.
Why do you have to drink water? Just I mean, I know you should.
Because that's to avoid getting more kidney stones.
Oh, I see what. Okay, that's what I missed. That's also what I missed. I do.
Did you miss the fact that I had a kidney stone?
I mean, I remember
weekend?
seeing it. But
yeah, I gotta drink.
I didn't see the stone, but
I didn't. Well, I didn't share it. Gotta drink dramatically more water, and I did that for the first time yesterday, and I spent half the day in the bathroom. I don't know how you people drink this much water. How do you function, especially once you're in your 40s like I am? Like, it's just over.
Yeah, it is annoying.
I have to apologize to all of the drunk girls that I went out with when I was a younger man. Be like, you're going to the bathroom again? Oh, I get it now. I completely understand. I totally get it. I am going to spend half the day in the bathroom today. It's awkward.
Well, okay.
It's uncomfortable, but I'm going
to help. Well, then let's take a break to help you out.
We're going to have mandatory hydration and bathroom breaks moving forward on GCR. That's the way it's going to go. All right, we'll preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Joe Serpico joins us next. This is Glenn Clark Radio.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, November 7th at Guilford Home Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by AJ Michaels, Superbook Sports, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? AJ Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Make sure you're tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver-Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Kahn's OnlyFans page at... Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Project Game Day returns this Sunday. Myself, Rita, Femi Ion Badejo with you after every Ravens game all season long. Come join us for Project Game Day, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/Game Day. Project Game Day, every game day all season. Brought to you by AJ Michaels, Superbook Sports, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. It is time for us to preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Joining us now, PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico, presented by Live Casino and Hotel. Joe, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, guys. I am happy to celebrate a win this week despite starting Daniel Jones. Don't ask me how I pulled that off, but it worked.
That is magical. I was not able to overcome some of the issues. All right, I need to start with something very selfish. All right? I'm in a league where I am 5-4. Like, I'm in okay shape, but I'm not in great shape. And in that league, I got problems because I did not realize that my entire team is either on bye or IR this week. Like, the whole thing. And unfortunately, this is a league where we don't have IR spots. So, like, Justin Jefferson is just going to have to sit on my bench. So at the moment, I have all of these players that are unavailable to me this week. Tua, Darrell Henderson, Kyron Williams, Pacheco, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Jalen Waddle, and Dallas Goedert. I need a flex and a tight end, and I'll have to pick both of those things up on waivers somehow. I feel like I can drop Darrell Henderson for one of them because the Rams stink. But at this point, is there anybody else I can drop, or do I just have to play without a kicker this week?
I agree with dropping Henderson. The other one I might consider is Dallas Goedert, just based on the news that fractured his forearm. He could be out for a couple weeks. And it sounds like you are truly desperate. So that ideally, if you got an IR spot or a couple places to stash away, you would keep him. But you're desperate and you need a tight end. Sounds like he might be one of the guys you're unfortunately going to cut ties with there.
Dallas Goedert. Do we know how long it's going to be?
I believe I heard a minimum of 2 weeks. Possibility they put him on IR. Then you're looking at probably final weeks of the fantasy regular season. If you're 5-4, you need to win now.
I hear you, but it's tight end hell. You know what I mean? Like, I would almost rather give up on.
Agree.
I'd almost rather drop like Kyron Williams at this point than drop Dallas Goedert, just because the The tight end position sucks so much.
Rappaport said a 4-week recovery timeline yesterday.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're looking at week 14 at earliest, right? Yeah, we're going into week 10. Yeah, week 14 at earliest.
I understand.
At that stage, you might be in or out of the playoffs.
What you're saying is relevant. I know it is. At the exact same time, there is not tight end hell to me is the worst thing that exists in fantasy football these days. And I realize I'm going to be in tight end hell for the next few weeks. Like, I understand I'm going to have to deal with that for a couple of weeks. But giving up someone who might be a functional tight end, I guess the idea is that you're hoping nobody else claims him next week. And so,
you could do that as well. Yeah, you could kind of drop him this week, and since he's injured, try to scoop him back up, hoping that nobody else does the same thing there. That's really all I got for you there. Yeah, that was kind of going to be the headline of my week, is just the 4 teams that we have on a bye this week.
Yeah,
they're all heavy hitters between the quarterbacks and the receivers and even the running backs and some, even tight ends, let's say. It's a rough week. Like in my case, where I need a quarterback this week, it's a rough week to need a quarterback because there's at least 4 other teams that need a quarterback as well, most likely.
All right. The headliner, of course, for Waiver-Wire Wednesday this week is Keaton Mitchell. And I fear that if you're in a league with Baltimore-based people, he's most likely not available. But if somehow he is, and I will tell you that I am in a league with Baltimore-based people, where the league where we have no IR spot, where he is. So let's talk about it. Like, obviously you're putting in a waiver claim for him, but we don't even know what his role is moving forward. How far can you go with fab money for Keaton Mitchell?
You hit the nail on the head of what I was going to say. What is his role moving forward? I think everybody got caught up. Yes, he had the 9 carries, 138 yards, and the 60-yard touchdown run. But he only saw 14 snaps. Gus Edwards also only saw 14 snaps. I think the person to keep an eye on was Justice Hill, saw 48 snaps. And it wasn't just 48 snaps because he was playing in mop-up duty. Hill played throughout the game. So I think, we're looking at a true 3-headed monster in Baltimore right now. They all have different roles. Mitchell is your home run threat. Gus Edwards obviously being your thumper. And then Hill is your receiving running back. So I think we're going to see all 3 guys. Now, again, we're in a pinch this week. Is Keaton Mitchell a guy that I might be putting at the flex? Yes, because I do think he's going to get more playing time, but I also don't think that you can expect 9 carries to be 138 yards each week as well. We could see next week where he has 9 carries for 36, and, it's kind of a dud for fantasy purposes. So I am putting in a waiver claim, but I'm not going overboard just because of the fact the other 2 guys aren't out of the picture.
Where would he be ranked for you this week? Like that to me is the next layer to it, is if you own Keaton Mitchell, are you – like, for example, if I were to have him in this league where I need somebody to pick up this week and play in a flex spot, is he playable yet, or do you still need to wait that out?
Again, it's all depending on your desperation. I ideally would like to wait it out just because it's only a 1-game sample. We've seen plenty of instances where we see these guys, have one big game, and then we don't see them again for the next couple of weeks. We know that the Ravens do want to get Mitchell involved more. It's just a case of, do you take the other 2 guys off the field? And I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. Like I said, I think all 3 are going to get some runs. So for me, it's hard to trust him as a flex this week. Again, based on all the teams are on a bye, you might have to. As far as where I'm ranking him to start, let's say for this week, I still probably have him in the range of, let's say, somewhere between the 30s and 40s. I'll be doing the rankings a little bit later today. But I would trust, let's say, guys, I would even trust like a James Conner that's coming back off an injury this week more than, let's say, a Keaton Mitchell, just guys that are going to get a lot more run.
I understand that. I completely get it. Is there anywhere else that you can find running back help? It seems quite thin.
Yeah, so I put Zach Charbonnet in the article just more because there's more of a split in carries there. You'll see in the next couple of weeks my focus is going to be more on handcuff running backs as opposed to, let's say, these wide receiver 5s and 6s that we're sometimes talking about, just because you're an injury away from having a potential starter. But as far as, true hopefuls find this week, it was Mitchell, and there wasn't a whole lot else to work with. It was a relatively low-scoring week for football in general.
Yeah, everything was good for me, or was bad for me this week except for C.J. Stroud, who I left on the bench in the other league and would have won and would have been 6-3 and wouldn't have been as panicked about this decision if I had just played C.J. Stroud last week. But I did play him in one league, and he carried me to a victory. Joe Serpico is with us, PressBox fantasy football analyst. Joe, at wide receiver, speaking of C.J. Stroud, I know you put Tank Dell on the list. I cannot believe there are still leagues where Tank Dell is available, but I completely hear you. Is Noah Brown somehow a thing?
Tank Dell, yes. Noah Brown, I think, was, like I kind of said before, I would say Mitchell I would trust a little bit more than Noah Brown. I think that was more of a one-hit wonder kind of thing where he took the one big play to the house. I think Dell is still the number 2 on that offense, Nico Collins being the number 1. And I like what I've seen from Dell. And the only reason, again, I was kind of nitpicking. I was just kind of trying to find guys that still around 50% available in leagues. Dell was one of them. So if he's out there, grab him. But like I kind of said before, it's kind of that time of the year where you know what you're getting from receivers. It's time to, if you're especially a team that's kind of in the running for the playoffs, to kind of bolster your running back depth as opposed to be worrying about, like I have on there, Demario Douglas. If you don't necessarily need him, there's no need to go after him. I would much rather be stashing away Antonio Gibson, Zeke, or something like that, and one of the guys above them get hurt.
Boy, is there anywhere else where you can find help as far as wide receiver? I know you mentioned Demario Douglas. It's not doing a whole lot for me. Is there anywhere else you can find wide receiver help?
I mean, I kind of was drawing the line today of like where I would put Demario Douglas. And am I starting him over, let's say, a Romeo Doubs? Maybe. Am I starting him over Marquise Brown? Probably not. Am I starting him over either one of the Broncos receivers? Probably not. So that kind of tells you, my general thinking of what I think of those guys as far as receivers. Now, of course, every week we're going to find out one home run threat. Rashid Shaheed, somebody we talked about was last week or 2 weeks ago, that's always capable of popping a big play off. But like I said before, at this stage of the season, we kind of know what we're getting from all the receiver positions, barring injury. So finding receivers this time of the year is kind of rough, and the same could be said for tight ends. It kind of is what it is for both positions.
This is why Daddy doesn't want to give up on Dallas Goedert just yet. This is why, even if I got to wait it out, the tight end thing is a nightmare, and that's what I'm dealing with. Yeah, that's sort of what I was feeling. I guess let's go back to quarterback for a second. If you picked up Will Levis, are you gonna give it another shot of playing him, or did that get ruined with his second performance? And do we need to talk about Josh Dobbs as being viable?
Yeah, what Dobbs did this past week was obviously super impressive. I think we've all seen now him not even know the cadence or teaching the offensive lineman the cadence on the sideline there, which is incredible considering how he just got there. But yeah, he's kind of on that borderline, kind of like I was just doing with the receivers. Dobbs is kind of right there for quarterbacks. Like I talked about him earlier in the year. Yes, he brings the rushing ability that can make him fantasy relevant at times, but then we saw a couple times in Arizona just how bad it can be too. Now that could be a byproduct of the Cardinals all around are a stinky team, so maybe now that he's in Minnesota, things are a little bit better. But again, that's got to be one of those things where we got to kind of wait and see it. Again, we're all in a pinch for quarterbacks this week, but if you've got better options than Dobbs, I'm definitely looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if we had better options, I think I'm playing Derek Carr. I think I'm almost committing to Derek Carr now in the PressBox league. That's Matt Stafford's not an option. I don't know what else. Would you play Dobbs over Derek Carr?
No, I'm still going with Derek Carr. I think the Saints are slowly starting to tick it up a little bit. But I feel your pain because I'm starting Russell Wilson. That's the only quarterback on my roster right now. So, and I'm literally holding on to hope that maybe Aaron Rodgers pulls off the miracle of miracles and somehow is back for fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know that he might not be back before. I've got a theory. Griffin and I were talking about earlier that he's in cahoots with the NFL and with Amazon, and he's coming back for the Black Friday game. I am almost ready to bet on the fact that he's going to play in that game because they are pumping the hell out of that thing to try to make it real. And he was on the field last night telling people he'd be back in a few weeks. So I'm telling you, I got this funny feeling about Black Friday. Got a funny feeling that he is going to work his way back for that. All right, anything else anybody needs to know going into this week?
No, kind of like I said before, if you could start stashing away, handcuff running backs, I would start considering that.
How does anyone have roster spot? How does anyone have a roster spot right now for that?
I know this week is a rough week to do that, but let's say moving forward, let's start if you have the spots to do so. Start stashing away at these backup running backs. Yeah, you might see them sitting there collecting no points right now, but let's say week 13, 14, 15, they might be league winners for you. Guys like Zach Moss slowly seeing his stuff diminish, but keep them on your roster. I mentioned Zeke, I mentioned Gibson. Tank Bigsby being another guy that hasn't got a whole lot of run. Some have VTN. That's his job moving forward. So keep an eye on those guys rather than, like I said before, holding on to if you got to start Demario Douglas this week, sure. But if he's just some, let's say, roster depth, I would much rather have one of those running backs.
All right. At Joe Serp on Twitter is how you follow him. PressBoxOnline.com to see all of his stuff. Joe Serpico, always appreciate you, brother. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Absolutely. Talk to you guys next week.
Sounds good, buddy. Joe Serpico, PressBox fantasy football analyst with us here on GCR. Joe is always brought to you by our friends at Live Casino and Hotel. Griffin, you want to let everybody know what's going on over at Live Casino and Hotel?
Yes, I want to tell you about the second chance to win drawing. If luck wasn't on your side in a recent bet, maybe you bet with Jeremy Kahn and you didn't bet with me over the weekend in the picks contest.
You went 8-1 and yet you were still only tied because apparently we picked every game the exact same way.
I didn't realize that.
And as I suggested, I'm starting to think that maybe you have to turn your picks into somebody.
I swear,
you went
my
from
picks
being garbage to
suddenly
you just happened to agree with every pick that I made. Everything that came out of my mouth, you said, yeah, I'll go with that too, after you had stunk.
I can promise
for
you
a month straight.
I make my picks before the segment.
I absolutely. As I said yesterday, by the way, my fears are confirmed. Paul Valley is going to have the time of his life if he's the one that has to go to the Creed show. Paul tweeted us all texted us all this morning and said, brutal week for your boy, 1-8. Yikes. And I said, yeah, but I don't like you being in Creed position because you'll probably have the time of your life. Paul says, yeah, if they tear it down like Limp Bizkit, then I might not even need the last place to go. What a wildly ridiculous John Proctor is purposefully losing to use this contest as an excuse to see Creed without judgment a thing. He says, it's not. Just trying to lean into it to keep from crying. KZ said, Jeremy going 2-7, he should be forced to go with you. Well, Jeremy right now would be the one that would have to pay the big punishment. Which I still contend is worse than going to see Creed. Also, we agreed you have to go by yourself. Because, again, Paul Valley would go, and, if Paul went with one of his buddies, they just rock out together and have a great time. So we still have to add a level of awkwardness to the Creed thing. You have to go by yourself in order to make sure that it's totally awkward. Now, if you did lose bets, there is good news from our friends at Live Casino and Hotel, though.
That is correct, because you can turn those
radio
losses.
Professional.
Yeah, right.
Griffin's already checked out and is just looking at something on the internet when he's in the middle of doing a read.
Turn the losses into winning opportunities with the second chance to win promotion at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland between now and January 4th. 2024, all Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Rewards members will be able to enter their losing bet slips into the second chance to win drum, and then 2 nights a week, 20 different winners will be chosen with prizes ranging from Live Casino and Hotel Maryland apparel, sports and social ultimate happy hour prizes, as well as cash and free play worth up to $500. Drawings will be held every Thursday and Monday over at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21 to play. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, so there was another page in the saga of the Michigan drama yesterday as the AP reported that there was this other Big Ten coach who said that they had been stealing signs from Michigan. And, of course, in the world, and this is the America that Elon Musk wants, where there's no context, the Internet all of a sudden, this is like, I'm not going to say it's the same thing as remember what I said about the Trevor Bauer thing a couple weeks ago where I was like, you guys are watching something and saying, he's completely exonerated, which is not at all what happened. It certainly means that there is more to the story than perhaps we knew before, But in no world did the video that Trevor Bauer put out make him suddenly completely exonerated. Even if the young lady had, like, agreed to, rough sex, the idea that, like, it's okay that he was punching her in the face, like, might be exonerated in court, doesn't suddenly mean that, like, this is a good guy that just really, he's the victim here. Like, no, and by the way, there's also still other allegations. We can only see, like, the immediate thing that's right in front of us. We are utterly incapable of subtlety, nuance, context. We've lost any ability for those things. So for some people, when they see this story yesterday about Michigan football, all of a sudden they say, see, Michigan's exonerated. That's, of course, not at all what happened yesterday. It's another level of the complexity of the story, and it goes back to what I said at first when this came out, and I said, I'm feeling like this is Astros, like, where I'm not sure how worked up I should be about it. I'm guessing that a lot of other teams were trying to do things too. Now, do I think that there was a Connor Stallions on every football staff that was going around and apparently employing? God, man, how did I never get that gig? Why did no one ever ask me?
Just go to football games.
I want to pay you money. All you got to do is go to a football game and wear these sunglasses and hit a button. That's it. That's all you have to do. Really? That's it? There's nothing else? I don't have to know anything? I can just sit there and hit. I paid to go to the Maryland-Wisconsin game in Madison last year.
And you had a good time.
Yeah, we had a good time. Not the game. The game sucked. The trip was fine. The game was dreadful. I think that they were doing it in a more cartoonish, comical way. And this line they're trying to hide behind, this is where the complexity of it is hilarious. Where they're still trying to pretend, and they're not even trying to use the words Jim Harbaugh didn't know. They're just saying there's no evidence that connects Jim Harbaugh. Well, other than the video where he's asking Connor Stallions, what are they doing on this play? Now, again, that alone in a court of law could not prove that he knew the depths of Connor Stallions'
knowledge and
sign-stealing plans. But the preponderance of evidence, this isn't a court of law, a preponderance of evidence would suggest Jim Harbaugh knew there was at least lengths that they were going to in order to be able to better steal signs. That doesn't mean that you can prove that in a court of law, but if it was a civil lawsuit, a preponderance of evidence would say Jim Harbaugh had enough knowledge that there was something there that it would be ridiculous to suggest otherwise. But the NCAA, apparently, within the bylaws, the problem is they can't prove direct evidence. Like, they don't have evidence that makes it so they can say beyond a shadow of doubt, which is what they're worried about should they be sued. If they're sued by Michigan, then they got to go to court, and can they prove it? Well, the NCAA has a bylaw that says it doesn't matter if the coach knew all of the elements of this. The NCAA had made it so that years ago, we talked about this before. It used to be that back when, paying players was illegal, that there would be somebody whose job it was to essentially be the fall guy. Make it clear the coach didn't know what was going on. It was your job. And you understand that if something comes out, you're the one to go. And the coach can wash his hands. In fact, it was almost common within basketball programs, football programs, for there to be a I don't want to know newfound glory, right? Like, I don't want... that wasn't even the way the song goes. It was terrible. What a terrible newfound... I don't want to know. I don't want to know. All right, it was a great song. Anyway, so that's the way that it worked for years. Don't tell me. That way, I can be truthful when somebody asks, hey, how did these hookers end up here? I don't know. You guys know what you're supposed to do. You have your barking orders, but I can't know about any of it. Whatever it is that you guys are doing to try to get players to come here, I will not know about it. And we'll throw you under the bus, and that's the way that it'll go. and we'll break you off a little piece, make you whole.
Literally, the mafia, like
essentially.
Yeah.
That's not true. I think I don't think that the higher ups in the mafia were all that concerned about whether or not they knew specific things. I really don't. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. The idea being, let's protect this by not knowing. The NCAA realized that's what programs are doing, and so they instituted a policy that said, no longer. If you don't know, to the point of, and I know in the Yahoo report they listed out not just the assistant coaches, but players, members of the band, mascots, any of that, essentially saying there will be no fall person available to you. There will be no, they'll break the rules so I can get away with it. If anything at all is going on within the program, you will be punished for it. You will take control and you will govern that no one will break any rules. And the reason you will do that is because you'll be the one that pays the price, which in theory makes all the sense in the world. It forces the leader of the program, the person with the most power, to say, we're not doing any of that stuff here. And if we catch wind that you might be doing something like that, you're gone, because I'll lose my job if you're doing it. It was the perfect way for the NCAA to address, and they get everything wrong. They're the worst organization in the history of sports. But that was the correct way to do it. No longer allow the loophole of there being a fall guy. Makes all the sense in the world. The problem is the Big Ten bylaws are not written the same way. Within the Big Ten bylaws, the coach had to know about it. So now there's this giant gray area, and the president of the University of Michigan is threatening to sue, right? The president of the University of Michigan is saying, well, you got to base on your bylaws. If you can't prove that Jim Harbaugh was in on it, then the way your bylaws are written, you can't punish us. You can't punish him specifically. And Connor Stallions, who we're going to throw under the bus, who we're saying is the staffer who went rogue, sure. He's already gone. How dare he refuse to cooperate with investigators? That's shameful. He's out of here. Well, of course he wasn't going to cooperate with investigators, because what might he have told investigators? Who else was involved? Obviously, he wasn't going to cooperate with investigators. Who is the guy that went to jail for Barry Bonds? What was that guy's name? He was in the document. God, was it Victor Conti? Was that his name? That was willing to go to jail to not just admit what everyone on the planet knew, which was that Barry Bonds was using steroids. To the point of willing to go to jail over it.
Greg Anderson?
That might be the guy.
That was his trainer, I think.
That might be who I'm thinking of. Yeah, was willing to go to jail to protect Barry Bonds. Not from going to jail, just from being outed as a steroid user, which we all already knew, and we were going to find out anyway. I don't know what the agreement was. I don't know what the arrangement was that made it worth it. But, of course, it's going to be worth it to Connor Stallions to not talk to investigators and to not cooperate, because he'll be made whole. What is the NCAA going to pay him for telling? Is the Big Ten going to give him money for telling the truth? Michigan football, which is quite powerful, they can make sure that he gets taken care of. So, of course, Connor Stallions isn't going to be cooperative. But Michigan's going to say, rogue staffer, how dare he not cooperate? Unbelievable. Shameful. He's gone. We took care of the problem. That won't. I'll tell you what's not gonna. There'll be no more Connor Stallions around these parts. That's shameful. Shame on him. It's the guy wearing the hot dog suit that's gonna find the guy that got to the bottom of it.
We're all trying
to find the guy. Well, they found the guy. It's Connor Stallions alone, singularly. No one else knew. Why was it they were all asking Connor Stallions what they should do on the sideline? Reasons. He was just like a soothsayer, man. He knew what other teams might be doing. Wow, because he was stealing signs. Oh, that's great. He was stealing signs? Gee, gosh, golly. Well, that is just not okay. So here we are. The Big Ten is in this bind where they know that Jim Harbaugh should be punished. But they also know that Michigan, because, again, football is more important than anything. This should be, in a normal functioning society, this should be scandalous. The people at the University of Michigan should want this guy thrown out. The president, Santa Oro, I believe his name. It's something, Santa Ono, Santa Oro, whatever his name is. How dare you try to protect a cheating football program when your priority should be an entire institution? But we're not a functioning society. We're a society that believes that grift is an art. That, like, being a grifter is something that you should be congratulated for, elected president over. We are not a functioning society. We have given up. We don't believe in those things. We want to recognize, Logan Paul.
Or North America or U.S. champion.
That's
right?
correct.
Yes.
This is what we do. So the president of a major university wants to get into a bylaw debate. He knows that no one there is stupid. They know exactly what was going on. That even if Jim Harbaugh somehow didn't know the depths, it's because he purposely tried to prevent himself from knowing. He knew what was happening. He just knew better than to be directly connected to it somehow. They know that they were cheating. But football is more important than life. Football is more important than doing the right thing. And they've beaten Ohio State the last 2 years. And in that world, that's more important than having air to breathe. That's it. So anyone who dared stand up to it would be run out. Imagine if the university president attempted to stand up to his football coach. They'd ask for him to be slaughtered in the street. And I wish that was hyperbole, but I don't know that it is. That's how embarrassing of a society we are. The context that was added yesterday is the notion that, like, hey, there might be other people doing it too, which, again, I assume from the get-go. I don't think they were doing it to the lengths that Connor Stallions was. But sign stealing it's the same way that I felt about the baseball thing. It's kind of sort of the way that it's gone for forever. And these sports have all needed to come up with better plans for how to make it more difficult. I don't know what those answers are. At some point, it just might not be. It might be that you're going to have to deal with the fact that people might know what you're doing. And maybe we just, as Drew suggested, all sign stealing needs to be legal, right? Like, everyone needs to be on the same page. You can send out your guys to all the various games and advance scout them. Honestly, it's maybe a little bit weird that the games are all on TV. I don't work for any Big Ten program, but if I was at the Maryland-Wisconsin game, what would prevent me from holding up my phone and recording it? It's almost a little bit goofy that, like, you obviously can do this. We're just asking you not to. Like, well, what the hell did you think was going to happen? If it's something that's possible, if it's plausible to be done, it's probably going to be done. I don't know. I'm in a weird place with this one because I don't like Michigan or Ohio State, right? So, like, I don't root for one or the other. I certainly don't think that Ohio State is like a holier-than-thou program. My God. It's Ohio State that we're talking about. If there is a rule, they're going to figure out a way to break it. Although, as I said before, giving benefits to players was never going to be something. You were never in my life. That the rule was broken. The rule was horrendous, and I was never going to be worked up about any program because, it was shameful and embarrassing that was a rule that existed. So I don't come down on one side of this. I think what we learned is Maryland would probably be Big Ten champions if they of all the teams that didn't cheat, right? Like if we just got rid of all the cheating teams and said all the teams that were on the up and up, Maryland Big Ten champions, and if they had just cheated, probably would have won the Big Ten anyway, right? Like they probably would have been better than they would have
have to get past Iowa, but yeah,
right. That's a great point.
Once they score 11 points in a game, they'll be good.
They're good. Exactly right. They're fine at that point. It's very weird, and like I'm totally prepared for the Big Ten to just put their arms up and shrug, to just say, "Well, we tried, but we didn't want to get sued," and that's just the end of it. Like I am completely prepared. I would almost say I think they'll attempt to announce some sort of punishment, but it will never be enforced. I think there'll be an injunction. They'll announce some sort of punishment. Michigan will go to a court, appeal it, get some sort of injunction, and the injunction will last through the end of the year. Michigan will, of course, get blown out in the semifinals if they make it that far. Like they're certainly not going to win a national championship. I mean, they could lose to Penn State. I don't think they will, but they could lose to Penn State on Saturday. It's possible. I doubt it, but they could. I assume that's going to be one of the games we'll pick this week. Whenever Michigan loses, quietly, they'll go back to the table with the Big Ten, and they'll figure out they'll create some sort of bizarre, instead of Jim Harbaugh facing a suspension, here's this other penalty that we'll pay. Donate X amount of dollars to charity, a massive fine, create some sort of program to combat cheating. Like they'll come up with something. The Big Ten will accept it as punishment, and because it's all going on in the offseason, none of us will think about it. And by the time we get to next year, we'll have forgotten about all of this. That's my gut about how all this plays out. The NCAA would have the option to step in, but they're cowards. They won't. Like Michigan's cheating, so they'll somehow punish Central Michigan. And I'm not kidding about that. They'll punish Central Michigan because Connor Stallions was on their sideline. Somehow Central Michigan will end up serving a more practical punishment than Michigan will in all of this. I'm betting on that. There'll be a higher Michigan will end up paying $20 million, something extraordinary, in order to avoid the punishment. Jim Harbaugh will sit down and try to figure out if he believes that his reputation has taken a hit. And if he does, he'll go to the NFL. If he doesn't, if he thinks he's come out of it completely, scot-free, then he'll get paid an extraordinary amount of money to continue being the Michigan coach. It reeks of we're not going to do anything. There's also no hiding behind, well, there might have been other programs doing it. That doesn't change whether or not you were cheating. If a rule exists, I said this you're not going to get me worked up about the Astros. I won't be. But I get why they had to punish the parties. I understood why the parties involved had to be punished. Because if a rule exists, there has to be punishment or else it's not a rule. Be like me walking into my kids and saying, you can't run around naked in the yard. Well, what happens if we do? Nothing. Okay, well, then we're going to go run around naked in the yard. The rule exists. If somebody violated it, they have to be punished. But I'm completely prepared for them not to be. I am almost banking on the fact that they're not going to be at this point. Because this is college sports, man, at the highest level. I mean, if this was Delaware that they were talking about, NCAA will come down hard on them because they're not making money for anybody. Michigan's making money. Michigan's good for the Big Ten. Michigan's good for the network partners. They're not coming after Jim Harbaugh. That's not happening. They're going to do everything they're going to make it look like they did. We tried. We announced the suspension. And ultimately, we think we agreed to a fair... Do you know how this is going? In March, they're going to sit down and announce an unprecedented fine. And the president, the holier-than-thou president of the University of Michigan is going to come out and say, and we have instituted, all of our employers are going to be forced to take these mandatory cheating courses, which, they'll never do. It'll just be some announcement. This is how society works. This is where we're going. Unless there's some political figure that feels like going after Michigan is going to help them win. And I think Michigan is a bit of a battleground state, correct? As far as a presidential election is concerned? Right?
Yeah,
Aren't they
usually
a pretty... so they're definitely not going to do that. There's no world in which either the Democrats or the Republicans are going to go after a state where they feel like they have to try to win. So that ain't happening. Forget it. They're all going to talk about how great Jim Harbaugh. I mean, like, literally, that's going to. I mean, Donald Trump, Jesus Christ, that guy. But even Joe Biden's going to have to go there and be like, I mean, he'll probably call him Dave Harbaugh or something like that. But he'll go there and he'll talk about how great he is. That's who we are as a society, baby. This is America. What was the line in the first scene of The Wire with Snot Boogie? They're like, so he would come out every Friday and steal the money, and you still let him play in the game? He'd be like, had to. This is America. This is America. You cheated. You had a complex sign-stealing system. It's miraculous that we've ever punished anybody. I can't believe we ever punished Lance Armstrong. I can't believe it. How did we not have the institutions in place for him to be bigger than that? I guess because it's cycling, and so nobody really cares. Yeah. But, like, how did Nike not step up and say, like, no. You're not doing that. We'll figure out another way around this. Like, I can't believe that anybody that's that significant ever faces any punishment, because there's too much at stake. And there's too much at stake right now with again, the threat of Michigan suing the Big Ten. Now you have to open yourself up to discovery, and you definitely don't. Now everybody's going to find out about all the illegal things that you've been doing. You can't go through discovery. So you got to back out. You got to bow out quietly. It's nonsense, man. This is America. It's a really depressing way to transition. I got nothing else to say, though.
Yeah, I mean,
it's what it is. It's what it is. All right, don't forget, this Sunday, we're going to be at Towson University. They're hosting a really wonderful event for veterans. Of course, Veterans Day is this weekend, and we're helping them honor and celebrate Veterans Day, as we will be there this Sunday for their big Veterans Day celebration and resource fair. It's co-hosted by Towson University's Military and Veterans Center and the Baltimore County Commission on Veterans Affairs. Free food, live music, DJ, a lot of veteran vendors will be on site, as well as information, sessions about that are created for veterans, as well as speakers that'll be there, service opportunities, plus an opportunity to hang out, watch the game. Femi Ayambadejo, Super Bowl champion, is going to be on site, and we're going to be hanging out afterwards. Me, Femi, Ken Zales will all be there for our part of Project Game Day and the post-game show. Going to be a great day. Sunday. Let me make sure I get that right. Sunday, starting at noon in Towson University's University Union. We will see you there. Looking forward to being a part of this event and helping to celebrate and lift up veterans in our area. Asking you, if you know someone, if you're not a veteran, but you know someone who's a veteran, just reach out to them. And this is not, by the way, exclusive to veterans. You can still, it's open to the public. You can come out, but would encourage you. This is meant for veterans to celebrate and lift them up and help connect them with other veterans, veteran-owned businesses, things along those lines. This is an event for vets. Please, any vets in your life, let them know what we're doing on Sunday, that they can come out and meet a Super Bowl champion and hang out for Project Game Day this Sunday. How about we get it? What?
Do you want to do the thing behind you?
We didn't do it last week. It's almost like it's going to go away.
So, well, I believe Drew said it at 40 last time.
I really feel like
What?
I'm in a weird place where I'm almost like, maybe it is 40 now. Like, maybe I'm looking at a team that's 7-2, that's firing all cylinders, that, as we mentioned yesterday, is the number 3 DVOA team of all time through 9 games.
Oh, still dropping.
36.
Oh,
36.
Wow.
I'm up to 36. Like, this is the problem, is that let's just say they went let's go crazy. Let's say this is 2019 Redux. Let's say they win. They go 15-2. They don't lose another game. What would the appropriate number be going into? You'd still have to go into the playoffs. What would the appropriate number be going into the playoffs?
If they 15-2.
At 15-2, what would be the appropriate number? Because I still don't know that you would feel better than 50-50.
Right.
Like we saw them do that 4
Chiefs
years
are
ago.
still around, and
4 years ago,
Bengals will look good.
They were unbeatable until their first playoff game. So I don't know that it would be better than 50-50 at that point. So I don't know how much I can raise. Like I'm almost thinking that 36 is still too high, but I'll leave it there. 36 is the number. Percentage chance that the Ravens win a Super Bowl in the life of Lamar Jackson's contract. We'll make it 36%. This one's just not hitting the way that the previous Lamar meter did. Got to figure out how to perfect that.
I mean, it's because we're not living it every single day.
We're just not.
I mean, we are.
Yeah,
but
right. Like it's just not. I don't know.
It didn't feel like
I gotta be
our
honest
lives
with you guys,
were on the line.
The last week I've quietly thought about just making it go away. Like this one just isn't. It's not what it was. But we'll see. Whatever. 36% for now. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Let's start with college basketball. Since college basketball's back, get some funny stats. There's a nice seesaw in the Wake Forest Elon game. So Elon was up by as much as 21 over Wake Forest, 36-15, and then Wake ended up coming back and won by 23, despite being down by over 20. It's the only Division I game over the last 15 years, at least the last 15 years, in which a team trailed by 20 and still won by 20. So,
how about that?
Wake Forest Elon came from Jared Burson.
It's definitely not interesting to me, but but if you cared about it, I don't know. It's a thing. It happened.
JMU handed Michigan State their first ever home loss in the month of November under Tom Izzo.
It's a little surprising given the fact that they're normally not a good November team.
They'd been 73-0 on their home floor.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is that they're just playing a lot of I'm guessing they haven't played a lot of marquee November games at home.
Yeah, I guess because they're always playing on battleships and
correct, and those big marquee events. I would assume, and the Big Ten ACC Challenge isn't until December, so. They probably play Maui a handful of times in there. I just don't know that they're playing. I don't know how many teams play big home games. I know the ACC the Big Ten Big East thing is in November. That's why Maryland's playing Villanova. But there's just not a lot of those types of events.
Michigan State also the first AP Top 5 team to lose its season opener since 2005. Lose their season opener to an unranked opponent since 2005. What the last team to do that was Michigan State.
How about that?
When they lost to Hawaii back in 2005.
Okay.
The San Jose Sharks are god-awful.
They're awful.
They're god-awful.
They're really bad.
They lost 10-2 to the Penguins after losing 10-1 against the Canucks over the weekend. They are now the first team in NHL history to allow 10-plus goals in consecutive games since 1965 when the Bruins did it.
Say that one more time?
They are the first team in NHL history since 1965 to allow 10 goals in consecutive games since the Bruins in 1965. Very bad.
Doesn't seem good.
No. Gus Edwards had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Gavitt games. That's the name of the Big Ten Big East thing. So I guess Michigan State has probably played somebody relevant in that thing over the years, but
Gus had 2 rushing touchdowns on Sunday. He became the 5th Ravens player ever with multiple rushing touchdowns in back-to-back games. He is the 5th.
I mean, I'm going to assume Jamal Lewis.
Jamal Lewis did not do this.
That's stunning.
Yeah.
Is it Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson is the most recent. Lamar Jackson did it this season, actually.
Ray Rice?
Ray Rice is on the list in 2012.
Priest Holmes.
Not Priest Holmes.
Mark Ingram?
No, Mark Ingram did not do this.
He ran for a lot of touchdowns that year. So that's a little surprising,
felt like he
but not.
Accidentally did this. Yeah.
Willis McGahee.
Willis McGahee in 2009 did have consecutive games with multiple rushing touchdowns. So you have one more.
Forsett?
Justin Forsett, yes, in 2014. Well done.
How about that?
You want one more, or are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Trivia last night. One of them was really easy. It was name the 3 teams that Bobby Knight coached in his career.
Darn, I should know this. Indiana.
This is pretty bad. Yeah, Indiana.
Oh
yeah.
man, I don't know who the other 2 are.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
That's really, really bad.
Um,
The one was before Indiana. The one was after Indiana. When he was fired, there was someone who came to the rescue. I remember the big statement in the press conferences, "We like your style," and it fit perfectly for the part of the country that it was.
Jeez, I don't know because
I believe he was replaced there by his son after he retired, Patrick Knight.
Who was that? Who would that have been?
This is really bad.
Yeah, I don't
This
like.
is really bad. I don't know which one is worse for you to not remember. I don't know which one is worse. He finished his career at Texas Tech after he had been dismissed by the University of Indiana. He began his career
Does make sense.
famously where he once coached Mike Krzyzewski.
At Duke?
No. Oh.
I don't know where I don't know why I can't remember where Mike went. Mike went to college either.
This is bad.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Bad.
I don't know.
Army.
Oh,
Army,
okay.
where he began his coaching career and where he coached Mike Krzyzewski. Bad.
Yeah, I would not have been helpful on that one. I would have given you Indiana.
Bad. Hey, not great. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
It's what it is, man.
It's all before I was alive.
What it is. It doesn't that's. I was before. You think that I was alive when Bob Knight was coaching at Army? No, dude. This isn't about you being alive.
I thought you were.
No. Give up, bro. Give up. See what years he coached at Army. He coached at Army from 65 to 71. I was still 12 years away from being born when he left.
Are you sure?
Army. Yes. It's just the type of thing that you know if you know college basketball history. The other if that one was hard.
Yeah.
No chance. I mean, this one's only kind of a sports question. In the song "We Didn't Start the Fire," Billy Joel named many athletes, but all of them fall into these 2 sports.
Basketball?
Nope.
Darn it. Football?
Nope.
Tennis?
Nope.
So soccer?
It's almost like you're purposely trying.
He didn't name hockey players,
0 for
did
4. 0 for 5.
I forget what sports I said. Baseball.
Baseball. Hey, you got one.
Baseball and what other sports are there? Cricket?
No. 1 for 6.
You know
what?
swimming.
I'm real sorry you didn't make it out to trivia last night, pal. 1 for 7.
Let's see. Baseball and what other sports are there? What
Lots of other sports,
yeah,
Griffin. Lots of other sports. Couldn't be
boxing.
More Boxing.
Was it really?
Hey.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, this is
baseball
bad.
and boxing.
Baseball and boxing. They all fell into those 2 categories. All right, let's get tubular. Tubular is brought to you by Superbook Sports. Haven't even checked the line yet for this week. I'm going to say Ravens.
Go bet against the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah.
They play the Flyers tonight, so go ahead and
you go ahead and just keep that rolling.
I would think so.
I'm going to say Ravens favored by 4.5 on Sunday.
Believe you are wrong. I think I saw it.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I saw it. I think it was 6. Believe it was 6.
Raven. It is 6.
Yeah.
It is 6, and the number is.
What do you mean?
The total.
Oh, the total. The total. The number.
The total.
43.5.
37.5.
Wow.
Low number.
Wow, I thought 42, 43 would be low.
Low number for Sunday. Of course, the Browns defense very good. The Ravens defense very good.
I think it's going to be 28-3 again. Yeah.
Expecting a defensive battle. I might actually still bet the under there, honestly. I might still. I know that sounds crazy, but I might still be interested in the under. I haven't looked at it. It's supposed to be nice all week, so I don't think the weather's going to be a factor. But you want to get in, use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook.com or download the Superbook app. You'll receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose. Superbook.com or the Superbook app. Tonight, tubular. First of all, you can go to facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline to watch the Tyus Bowser Show with special guest Justin Matabike. But if I were you, I would just be at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North to watch the show live and meet the guys. Don't know what it is that I don't know if you've heard. The Ravens are really good. Justin Matabike is a superstar. What are we doing? Why should I have to ask you to come out? Come out. Who's calling me? Tell them to come out. Oh, it's my wife. Never mind.
She'll be there.
No, she won't.
Oh.
She was there for the last one, though.
Oh.
Maryland does open the season at 7 against Mount St. Mary's Big Ten Network Plus. Loyola in the Patriot League Soccer Tournament semifinals. I'm sorry I won't be there, but we got the Tyus Bowser Show. It's on ESPN Plus at 6. Bunch of college basketball. None of it's significant. Auburn-Baylor at 9 on ESPN is a fairly good one. The College Football Playoff Top 25 unveiling at 7 on ESPN. Apparently, I don't know what's going on ESPN. So they're running that at 7. Like, you would think that they should be in the cahoots. Like, hey, nothing else to watch tonight. Maybe we have a big college basketball game. That sounds like fun. They're running College Football Playoff Top 25 and then some pickleball thing at 8 o'clock.
Not even action or anything? Like
It's brutal. There is some action tonight on ESPN2, Ohio and Buffalo at 7:30, ESPNU, Central Michigan, Western Michigan at 7.
Soon to be sanctioned Central Michigan.
That's right. Definitely going to have to pay the penalty. CBS Sports Network for Ball State, Northern Illinois at 7. TNT, Red Wings, Rangers at 7:30, Devils, Avalanche at 10. No NBA tonight because it is Election Day in some places.
Yes.
And so the NBA does not play on Election Day, which I do, like, I support, but we could use something. That's, like, I wanted to feel that way about college basketball. Like, oh, that's the reason why.
There's only a handful.
You know, like, well, no, I was thinking
Or
when
not real
why
games.
all the games were on Monday night when there was a football game. I'm like, because they want to avoid Election Day. It's a good thing. Well, there's plenty of games tonight. They just all stink. There's just no good ones. So it's not that. The USA Network for WWE NXT tonight. It's at 8. Anything non-sports-wise?
Not really. ABC News special, Dolly Parton from Rhinestones to Rock and Roll. I don't know. That's at 10 o'clock on ABC. Brian Cox will be on Fallon tonight.
Promoting a
There is a new
spin-off of
There is a new James Bond game reality show that airs on Friday. And he plays like the main he plays a Bond villain essentially, as they send people all over the world essentially competing in James Bond challenges.
Sure.
It's called Road to $1 Million, so you can win $1 million.
I'm good.
Welcome to Wrexham, of course, on FX.
I do like that.
Yes.
I do
I'm
like that.
I'm getting close to caught up.
Last week was a thriller, man. Last week was a thriller. Anything else?
No, that is it.
Right, very good.
The rest go to glennclarkradio.com.
Thanks to Joe Serpico. Thanks to Patrick Stevens. Thanks to Wes Brown and Tracy Wolfson. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. And, of course, tomorrow on GCR.
Drew Forrester will be here.
Somehow you made it worse. If it was just stuff and things, it would get you segment number 1 of the Tyus Bowser Show with Justin Matabike tomorrow on GCR. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, the Maryland 5-Star, A.J. Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Superbook Sports, Harford County, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery. Go Terps and Mount St. Mary's. We like them too. Duke sucks.